Last month, the Salem Power Plant shut down its coal-fired boilers for good. It was the last of the state's so-called Filthy Five power plants targeted by environmentalists for sending tons of carbon emissions into the atmosphere. Now, a similar story may play out across the nation as the Environmental Protection Agency issues sweeping new guidelines aimed at combating climate change. What Congress wouldn't do, President Obama says he will.
As president and as a parent, I refuse to condemn our children to a planet that's beyond fixing.
Using its authority under the Clean Air Act, the Obama administration proposed today new EPA regulations that will force power plants to cut carbon emissions 30% nationwide by 2030.
Now, just to put that in perspective, that's as if we canceled out all the annual carbon pollution from 2/3 of the cars and trucks in America.
Power plants are the largest source of greenhouse gases in the U.S., and most of those emissions come from older coal-fired plants, which supply 40% of the country's electricity. The executive order sidesteps Congress, but politicians from coal-producing states are pushing back.
The administration has set out to kill coal and its 800,000 jobs. If it succeeds in death by regulation, we'll all be paying a lot more money for electricity if we can get it.
But environmentalists say the cost of doing nothing is even higher.
This is something we can't put off, and the president deserves huge credit for making this his legacy.
There's little doubt the debate will continue through this year's midterm elections. So will the new EPA regulations survive the anticipated onslaught of lawsuits? And if they do, will the changes have an impact? I'm joined now by David Cash. He's Commissioner of the State Department of Environmental Protection. Well, for years, the state has been saying that a majority of the pollution in the state is from the coal-powered plants. So you've got to be thrilled about this.
We are very excited about this. This gives Massachusetts and other states that have been at the cutting edge of clean energy, the clean energy economy, a huge tailwind. And despite what some of those opposed to it say, in fact, this could be a big grower of jobs. This can be a big saver of economic benefits in a way that our current energy system just doesn't do. And we've shown that in this state. Governor Patrick has led the country in energy efficiency and renewable energy in such a way that we already have reduced our emissions by 40% over the 2005 levels. And we've done that at the same time our GSP has grown by 70%.
All right, let's bring another voice into this. Zygmunt Plater, he's a professor of environmental law at Boston College Law School. Well, Zig, you're basically on board with this, but you're afraid it's going to get all tied up in the courts. What's the issue?
It's a new way of regulating a very new pollutant, and it looks as if the plan the president has is feasible, and it's legal. The Supreme Court just recently came down with a number of, the Homer City decision, making it clear EPA has the discretion to do it and do it right. The political problem is the gigantic problem, but I predict that the legal hassles will be drawn out because that's the way the system typically works. The president, however, had to use this old law, which has terms which allow it to address modern pollutants. But he certainly is going to harvest a political attack for doing so.
But aren't people like the senator from Wyoming hanging on to antique fuel sources? I mean, we're not going to be relying on fossil fuels for the centuries to come. It's not going to happen. It's like saying, don't build airplanes because we still got trains. I mean, it's like...
I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things that I've been curious about is that the U.S. has always been the leader in technology innovation. And here we are at the cusp of the clean energy future, and there are many in the country who want to hold the United States back. And that we've shown it in the Northeast, we've shown it in California, and a variety of other states, that if wisely regulated and done with a lot of flexibility, you could get both the benefits of saving energy and green job growth. We've seen that in Massachusetts in the last 5 years. We've seen between 6 and 12% growth in the clean energy sector. And that cuts across the gamut from electricians, plumbers, architects, designers, chemists, the whole gamut along the value chain. We've seen big benefits here.
And I think that's the future. About the war on coal, the power grab.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't a power grab. He had to implement the law once the Supreme Court came down with Mass versus EPA. And the way it's crafted, states are brought in with flexibility,
yes, yeah.
like with the SIPs, the state implementation plans in general. But the states are invited to try different ways to achieve. It's not dictation of a design standard. It's performance standards with a range of options.
If somebody's going to figure out a way to burn coal without it polluting the air, that's going to...
that's what, once this rule goes into effect, we are going to see innovation bloom throughout the country in the way that it's been blooming here in Massachusetts. And that's exactly what we want to see happen. We want to see, if there's a way to convert coal into energy that's done cleanly, great, bring it on. And that's exactly what this rule has been about, and that's exactly what the flexibility will allow.
It doesn't have to be just wind and solar. There are ways, as you suggest. It's the foot draggers, however, who are saying, oh, this is revolutionary, this is the end game for coal. Coal certainly is going to lose to natural gas, but that was happening anyway.
And there's still, even without brand new innovation and technology, we already have off-the-shelf energy efficiency. That in this state, you've got Fortune 500 companies and mom-and-pop stores, residential customers, schools, and city halls that are all availing themselves of our energy efficiency programs. And that means money that these companies can invest in a new staff member in research and development. It's money that people have in their pockets to do recreation, and it's municipalities that can afford another teacher or another firefighter.
As Zig says, people are going to be scaring people to death that the cost of the electricity is going to triple or quadruple, and so they're all going to get rich.
When we started the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, the models were showing that we might see an increase in electricity bills of about 1 to 2%. We've seen a decrease of 8%.
But
that's
also,
the savings.
It's hard to measure benefits in climate improvement and health, whereas the companies can always say we had to pay this much for a scrubber, we had to pay this much for... But if you look at the science, and if you look at the facts of the implementation that EPA and the states will do, this could be a win-win all around.
All right. Zig Plutter, David Cash, thanks so much.
Thank you.